Morning.
Hello.
Good. How are you? Are you requesting takedown?
Order. Plaintiff is not requesting takedown.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Same with the defense.
Okay. All right. Thank you both.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Peavy. How are you?
Doing fine, Demond.
Morning.
Morning.
Broadcasting here from the home office. Y'all may or may not be aware, there's a lot of extra activity going on at the courthouse today. So I am working remotely, and this hearing will be broadcast on YouTube for the public's benefit should anyone want to view the proceedings. We are live streaming. All right. We have got defendant's motion for summary judgment in this case. Everybody prepared to go forward?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. So Judge, we saw that there was 2 cases on the calendar. I guess that other case has gone off. So this is the James Moore case?
Yes,
Okay.
the other case has been reset. We had a conflict arise. So you are it for today.
Okay. So you ready for us to start?
Go right ahead. I think it's your motion.
Yes, Your Honor. So I'm Jay Peavy, and I represent the 3 defendants in this lawsuit. This is a premises liability case. And let me just give you just a sort of concise summary of the facts. On March 27, 2019, James Moore, who's the plaintiff in this case, had parked his Hummer in the front of the Cozumel restaurant, which is a Mexican restaurant and a bar that's located in College Park, Georgia. It was at night and it was dark. The sun had gone down. And Mr. Moore, I took his deposition, and he said he went there after work. He had a beer at Cozumel, and then he left the restaurant and went to his Hummer. As he attempted to enter his vehicle, he was approached by 2 men who he said had come from the sidewalk. They hadn't come from the restaurant. And one of the men asked him a question, and as James attempted to answer, he was suddenly attacked by those 2 guys and a third guy that he didn't know where he came from. Before he was attacked, Mr. Moore tried to enter his vehicle, but he was not quick enough. These men knocked him unconscious and took everything from his pockets, including his keys, money, and a cell phone. These 3 men have never been found, and they're unknown. Unfortunately, they're probably still running the street somewhere. There were 5 security guards working that night, 2 in the parking lot, 1 at the door, and 2 inside the restaurant. There also was several surveillance cameras, with 1 of them right there situated at the front door where this incident happened, about 8 to 10 feet away, or maybe 15 feet, I think. Your Honor, the focus of my summary judgment motion is the lack of evidence that there was anything that my clients could have done to stop this brazen and sudden attack. And a case on point is the Statterman v. Southward Realty Company case, 361 Georgia Appeals 613. It's a 2021 Court of Appeals case. And in that case, the plaintiff was loading his car at an apartment complex to return to South Carolina. He accidentally hit a car with a plastic bag full of dishes that set off that car's alarm. As he was going back to his apartment, a man suddenly came out of one of the other apartments and yelled at the plaintiff for messing with his car. And at that point, the man revealed a gun, and the plaintiff tried to de-escalate the situation, but when he walked away, the man shot him in the back. The plaintiff in that case alleged that the attack would likely have been prevented if the defendants had employed a competent courtesy officer. They did have one, but he wasn't around, and provided functional controls on access to the property. However, the Court of Appeals said there was no evidence of how the shooter gained access to the property, And the court also noted that even if the courtesy officer had happened to be at home at the time of the shooting, and the presence of a police car might have made the shooting less likely, there was no evidence suggesting that the patrol car's absence made the sudden violent attack more likely than not. And the court noted that a competent courtesy officer was likely to observe the altercation, was unlikely to observe the altercation. And even if he was, it was unclear how the officer would have been able to prevent such a sudden shooting. That really fits on points in our case here. There were security guards in the parking lot, but this sudden brazen attack occurred very quickly and no one saw anything. In the brief in opposition to our motion for summary judgment, Mr. Lamond focuses on the fact that the surveillance camera was not monitored 24/7 by a person inside the restaurant. However, even assuming that it was negligent for the defendants to not have someone constantly monitoring the cameras, which we say it's not. This is a restaurant. Banks don't even do that. There's no evidence that had there been real-time monitoring of the surveillance camera, that this sudden attack could have been prevented.
All right, let me stop you for a second. You talk about sudden attack, but as I look at the facts, right, there was at least a brief discussion. There was him attempting to get in his car. He was knocked to the ground. He was pistol whipped, and this apparently happened 10 or 15 feet outside the premises. I mean, isn't there a question of fact as to whether the attack could have been at least stopped in progress if somebody was watching that video in real time?
I mean, they're inside the building, Your Honor. I mean, it happened like that. I mean, it really did. I mean, these guys attacked him and just got the heck out of there. I mean, in seconds.
Right. The only person that's going to be able to testify is how long the attack happened is going to be the plaintiff. And it seems to me that this is very susceptible to a fact finder determination, because we can't say for certain how long the attack took or how long it would have taken to get somebody out there, assuming somebody had seen it. I had another factual question. At least from what I read in the briefs, it suggested that they usually had security folks stationed outside. Was no one stationed outside at the time?
Well, I mean, it's not constant. It's one of them, we don't know. One of the guys, I mean, they may have gone to the bathroom, which happens all the time. You can't man it all the time. And this is just a restaurant, Your Honor. I mean, and I don't know. I just believe, these Court of Appeals cases, if you've been reading it, I just got nailed in federal court on a QT case where did the same thing. Judge Grinsberg said, hey, this happened so suddenly, there's nothing that QT could have done, and granted summary judgment. And I got to deal with that with the 11th Circuit. This Sturdivant case I talked about, that's just one of the last 3 Court of Appeals where they focused on proximate cause. And like this, it's sort of speculative and conjecture what they could have done. Because, usually if you look at these premises cases that's gone to a jury and all, it's like an apartment complex case where there's evidence that the bad guy got through a gate that had a hole in it. And the apartment complex had an opportunity to prevent that from happening. And then the bad guy gets into an apartment and rapes someone or shoots someone or something like here.
Let me talk about your QT case, though. And I think I don't believe I read the opinion, but I did read reporting about the opinion. And in that case, wasn't the record that there had never been a violent attack?
They had a robbery there 7 months with a gun. And that's my argument that in the 11th Circuit, in that case, is a carjacking is a robbery. It's just involving a car instead of, money. So they were on notice of an opportunity to, that someone got robbed there 7 months before. And when someone's got a gun, it's foreseeable that that gun can be used and invite to get hurt.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a little bit different factual circumstance there than here, where we know we're in an area that has an elevated crime risk. We know that there have been assaults and batteries right outside the premises. And, and there seems to be some acknowledgement of that fact by the proprietor here, that they need to have people stationed outside, and they need to have at least the ability to record video for police purposes after the fact. It seemed to be a pretty fair acknowledgement that there's violent crime and evidence that there's violent crime occurring at the premises in the parking lot.
Well, Your Honor, if you look at those cases that they had before, it was always people at the restaurant, been drinking, and they had weapons, even though they frisk them, everybody that goes in there. This is the first one. You won't find anything else where you get three thugs who weren't even guests coming off the street and attacking somebody. It's the first time it's ever happened.
Right.
And it gets into, you only got a duty of exercising ordinary care. This is really getting into requiring extraordinary care. It really is. They're asking a restaurant, that's, it's hard enough getting employees to pay for somebody to sit in there and look at a surveillance camera the whole time it's open. Banks don't even do that, and they got a lot of money. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I hear you, Mr. Peavy. I think you've got good arguments, but I don't know if those arguments, that the jury can't hear those arguments and make their own determination as to reasonableness and foreseeability. I just don't know that it's enough of a record here to take that completely out of the jury's purview. I understand the persuasiveness of it.
that's fine. I mean, you're the decision maker on summary judgment. So that's fine.
Now, I'll give you I think you know where I'm going on this, but anything else you want to say to try and convince
No, I
me
mean,
otherwise?
it's fine. I'll just make these arguments in front of a jury, and then maybe if I get a bad result, do a JDNOV and then go to the Court of Appeals. It's easier to do that than do an interlocutory. So that's fine.
All right. Mr. Lee, I think you know where I'm going. I'll give you an opportunity to address anything additional that you want to address. I do want to ask you about the public nuisance claim and the punitive damages claim. I didn't see any response from you on that. And if you are still intending to pursue those claims, I definitely want to give Mr. Peavy an opportunity to address those.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John, I didn't address that because he didn't respond to those claims.
Right. So Mr. Lee, are we still trying to push forward a public nuisance claim or punitive damages claim?
No, Your Honor, we are not.
All right. So that motion, the motion as to those two claims is granted. You have anything you're dying to tell me about the premises liability claim?
I think that Your Honor has identified the issues that I was going to speak to. I do think that the Statterman case is very distinguishable, in that did not appear to be as random of an attack as our situation. In the Statterman case, there was, albeit there was not a direct confrontation initially, but the bumping up against the car in the parking lot led to a direct confrontation with a specific individual who came out of an apartment unit, didn't come off of the street. And the court in that case had took issue with the fact that, as Mr. Peavy stated, there wasn't much that the property owner could have done to prevent that attack from happening. That's not what we have in our situation. In our situation, as Your Honor has identified, as Mr. Padilla admitted in deposition, this is a high crime area. Mr. Padilla admitted that there was a need for armed security. Unfortunately, the armed security that he stated in his affidavit, that the armed security was present on the night that Mr. Moore was attacked. Unfortunately, there is a dispute in that fact, in that evidence, because in deposition, the days that he gave from which armed security was present did not line up with the day of the attack of Mr. Moore. And I say all that just to say that we have a genuine issue of material fact that is in dispute, that just needs to get in front of a jury. The comment about security being present at all in the parking lot, that's a disputable claim, because I have deposition testimony from Mr. Moore that he didn't see any security guards that night. And there's a number of, as identified in our response to the defendant's motion for summary judgment, there are a number of security deficiencies that a jury should be allowed to hear about to make a determination as to whether the injuries caused as a result were reasonably foreseeable. So I think that Your Honor has identified all the issues again that I was prepared to speak to. If Your Honor has any further inquiry of me, I would definitely, provide whatever answers Your Honor needs.
All right. I don't have anything else. Motion for summary judgment granted as to the public nuisance claim and punitive damages claim, denied as to the negligence claim. Mr. Lee, if you would submit a proposed order to Mr. Townsend, run it by Mr. Peavy.
Yes, sir.
Before you send it, make sure he agrees as to form and not substance, and then send that to Mr. Townsend and we will get it entered.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
Thank you both. Take care. Thank you, Ms. McBrayer.